Bob, you want to do some emails?
Sure.
All right. So this is just if people are listening for the first time, we're doing Celtic 17, Celtic City Wrap once a week. Bill Simmons' terrific series on HBO. So some emails for Bob on this. Randomly decided to look at Charlie Scott's stats before the trade and after the trade, and it was like he and Paul Westphal traded bookends of careers because Charlie Scott was an all-star scoring 20 plus points a game, then dropped off when he got to the Celtics, and Westfall became an all-star and started scoring 20 points a game. But as we know, Charlie got the ring. So thoughts on that?
At that, and I've had this, I think, corroborated to my satisfaction over the years. Charlie Scott, Don Chaney had left the team to go to the ABA, and Westfall was going to be elevated from third guard to starter alongside JoJo White. And Red felt that they worried that, and Red and Brass worried that JoJo would not be as receptive to having Westfall steal his thunder, if you will, as he should be, and that Westfall, there might be nights when Westfall would get 30 and JoJo would get 10 or 12, and JoJo wasn't going to like that. Charlie, but he would respect Charlie Scott, and the Suns. I don't know whether Jerry Colangelo just. I can't believe that he realized how good Westfall was going to be. We knew but that he was going to turn into what he turned into. But from the Celtics' point of view, that trade was necessary and at the time, and they were willing to go for the short run gain of getting an all-star player and trading away a young guy whose great years were ahead of him if they was going to have great years. And so it turned out both teams were happy in the end. The Celtics got a championship out of Charlie, who gave him a good year. And by the way, during the playoffs in 76, they won 3 6-game series. And in each of the 6 games, Charlie Scott came up very big. Yeah. Very big in each of the 3. And JoJo, they hit it off. And so but I know people don't understand it because Westfall, I hated the trade because Westfall was a friend. And matter of fact, I had dinner at his house about 3 nights before the trade, and they blindsided him. He had no remote indication of thinking about trading him. And of course, he went out to Phoenix, and we all know, it's a Hall of Fame career. He made the Hall of Fame, and he had 5 or 6 tremendous years and got traded, and his career ended early due to injury. But those years in Phoenix, he was a first-team All-League kind of player. And, so I know people have a hard time understanding that, but the personal dynamics there were the key to that trade.
Did he get traded for DJ with Seattle?
No, I forget. I forget what the deal was with Seattle. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
But he got hurt, and he went with the Knicks, and the career didn't go as long as it should have. But boy, those peak years, he was tremendous.
Well, we were all shocked too as fans because, it looked like he was he was a guy coming off the bench and was a hell of a player.
He in '84, Game 7, he came off the bench and sparked them.
Yeah, 74. You mean 74?
I mean, no, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. 74.
Yeah. He sparked them in that game. And so anyway, no, you can't say and good things about him. And in '76, in Milwaukee in '74, he came off in the second and third quarter and sparked them. So he had his moments. Yep.
Okay, this is from Austin Hannon 4197. I personally have John Havlicek, but okay. Let me read this whole thing. By far the best player in NBA history. Pump the brakes, Austin. He's my favorite player too, but the man won 8 NBA finals, more than Michael Jordan's 6. Okay, he also played with Bill Russell. A great shooter and defensive player, criminally underrated. I will agree with the criminally underrated as far as the NBA is concerned, because John was a very quiet guy. He was a very humble guy. Certainly was not a self-promoter, but he's not Jordan. But underrated, I think we both agree on that.
He's starting to fall through the cracks of history. There's no question, which is criminal, because he wasn't one of the truly great players. I believe. Well, first of all, I think he is. You honor him with faint praise by harping on the six man thing. Yes, he was as the greatest six man of the mid-sized six man type that the game has ever known. When he was, and that was a luxury the Celtics could afford because of the team that he was playing on. He was very fortunate to join the Boston Celtics at the time that he did. They could use him the way he should have been used at that time. He needed to get a shot. He wasn't a great shooter when he came in the NBA. He had to work on his individual offense. Mostly what he did as a rookie was run up and down the floor and catch passes from Kuzi and score 14 points a game. He went home and worked on his shot and came back the next year, and now he's averaging 18 a game because he's making some jump shots, a lot more than he was as a rookie. But he was lucky but that six-man thing, here's the thing. Red famously said over the years, it wasn't matter who started to who finishes, right? And starting with the second year in the league, he was second on the team in minutes played.
Right.
Even though he didn't start after Russell. Okay. They recognized his value immediately, but they were able to use him in that strategic way because of the team that he was playing with. You look up some of the minutes played by the 68 series, and in 69 the minutes that he got, we were averaging probably over 45 minutes a game.
Right.
And when he became officially a starter in 69, 70, he then would lead the league in minutes played like the next 4 years, So the six man thing is he was far more than that. I can tell you that. That's for sure. Far more than that.
I love this next one's great.
One reason why he doesn't have more all defensive selections is that they didn't have one until they didn't start that. He would have been had two or three more. And my belief is that for the last 5 years or so of his career, starting in 68, 69, when Oscar Robertson and Jerry West were now around for 8 or 9 years and starting to slip a little, not much, but a little, he was better than both of them by that time. He was better than both of them. And that's saying a hell of a lot because they were still both very good. That's how good John Havlicek. And he was the best non-center in the league for at least a 3 or 4 year period there. Now, is he the greatest player of all time? No. But he's got to be on any list of the top dozen players. And if you throw the centers out for a minute, and
right.
People, unfortunately, if people learn about him now, they hear about six man. They don't appreciate. Just go check out the minutes, folks. And he was a lot more than a six man.
Oh yeah, he was my favorite player of all time. From Amec 44, Don Chaney is often overlooked from the Celtics' early 70s powerhouses as well. He and the Bulls' Jerry Sloan were the best defensive two guards in the game.
Jerry Sloan, well, it's a very, you look back at that period of time and you can make a case that's a fairly prescient statement defensively at that time. Both of their reputations were built on defense.
Right.
Sloan, a little bit more of an offensive force, but that he had to be for that team. But Chaney was a tremendous defensive player. And by the way, in terms of offense, he actually, when they won 68 games in 72, 73, he averaged about 13 or 14 a game. And by running the floor and getting opportunity points. But I always give credit. Tommy Heinsohn worked with him individually to work on his shot. And Tommy didn't get any credit because people didn't know. I tried to tell him that he was working with Don Chaney and specifically after practices and helping him on his shot, and it worked. But Chaney was never out there to be a big scorer. He was out there to do what he did. He had these incredible long arms. He was strong at 6'5" and was a team-oriented guy. And just a wonderful guy, by the way. It was in a good partnership with JoJo. Perfect compliment that he wasn't going to take shots away from JoJo, and that worked very well. But in terms of this gentleman's premise, That's not a foolish premise. At the time that they played, I would argue that you could make a case that they were the two best defensive guards.
Um, and this is our final email at Basketball Jones or social media post, however we got these. I love Bob Ryan. The man is on the Mount Rushmore of sports journalism. Imagine stories upon stories. And then all of a sudden he just goes, I once gave Spencer Haywood a ride to the airport. That's another story.
Yeah, I did. I was on a panel at Harvard. Jay Billis was on that panel. I forget who else was on that panel. I don't even know what the topic was. This is, and I wound up giving Spencer Haywood, and believe me, I didn't have a big car. I still don't know how he got that 6'9" frame inside my passenger seat, but he did. So, and by the way, he is one of the unsung heroes, and if we like to say the phrase, breakout stars of the Celtic City series. His appearances are tremendous. He's funny. He's insightful. He's physically, graphically.
Oh yeah, he's animated.
Oh man, thank you. Thank you. I knew there was a good word to describe it. He's very animated. I hope there's more of him, but I don't. I guess it was just everything's going to be a matter of.
Well, he and Cowens seem to have a relate. Did he and Cowens have a friendship? I
didn't know. The only guy the only person on another team that I knew Dave. Well, there were two people that he had friendship with. Doug Collins, with whom he shared a basketball camp. Okay,
right.
So Collins was very friendly with Doug Collins, and after they had a fight, which is one of my favorite stories if we have time to tell it, Bob Kaufman, I guess they wound up appreciating each other personally, but that was one of the strangest nights I've ever seen in the NBA. Which, all right, very quickly, all right?
Yeah, so it's a podcast, Bob. You can talk as long as you want.
We're in Buffalo, but it doesn't matter where. I think, and it was on the road, but it could have been in Boston, but I think it was in Buffalo, and playing the Buffalo Braves, and someone makes a basket. And I record it. I'm keeping my running. And while I'm going basket so I hear sound of human flesh. I hear flesh, the sound of pounding of flesh. And I look up, and these two guys, Bob Kaufman, who's 6'8" and 230, 240, and Dave Cowens, are standing on the foul line. And Cowens has dropped his arms looking at Kaufman. And what has happened is Cowens has just slugged Kaufman. And now it's saying, it's your turn. And like two Russian lumberjacks with the vodka, so Kaufman punched him back, and when it was over, Cowens had a black eye, and Kaufman had like a jaw dislocation or something, and that was the end of it. They each had their say, and I remember Dave going around had a black eye for a while, and Kaufman they both survived, but they somehow or other that was like a sign of mutual respect after that. And they got along great after that.
That's crazy. Yeah. Well, that's a hockey mentality. But you're right. We can't wait for episode 5. We'll talk about it again next week, and we break it down every week here on CLNS. And this review of Celtic City has been brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less with Prize Picks.